Now let us talk about, I said that in this chapter we will discuss two applications, one price control and second taxation. So, right, yes.
Sir, does the slope of this graph denote anything? Price, demand upon price upon quantity.
It does denote. So, wait little later we will talk about that topic. Right now we are not, we are just talking about movement and shifts, okay, the direction of movement and shifts. We are not talking about the slope. Slope is also very important, very good question, but little later you have to wait little bit to get the idea about the slope. We will talk about the slope. So, right now we are talking about one application, another application taxation we will talk little later. So, what is price control? What do we mean by price control?
So, how we can regulate the prices of the goods in the market?
See, typically what happens in the market, that if there is, imagine that there is no control, then what happens, as we have seen in the potato market, the price and quantity bought and sold in the market, they adjust, okay, on their own. Okay. It is not that someone is making that adjustment, because of individual behaviors, that there is an automatic adjustment, and eventually the market reaches to equilibrium price, and at that price quantity and bought and sold would be the equilibrium quantity. But now there is a possibility that government says that okay, because there is a legislation or there is a law that you cannot buy or sell the product. Now there are two possibilities, that above this particular price or below this particular price. So government can come up with a regulation to fix price ceiling or price floor. And we can define price ceiling as maximum price for a unit of good established by law or by government. And similarly, price floor is the minimum price. Tell me an example.
So, petrol or petroleum.
What do we have? Price floor
ceiling.
or price ceiling?
Ceiling and price floor in case of farmers, like
Minimum support. So, price floor typically is minimum support price. What happens typically, let me also add, government does not only say in the case of price floor that this is the minimum price. Okay. Two ways to do it. One way is that government says, okay, you cannot, this is the price below which you cannot buy or sell. This is the one way to do it. Or the second way to do it is that government says that government is willing to buy the product at this particular price. Okay. Now consider a scenario. Let us look at the demand and supply. This is supply, this is the demand. Okay. If government says that the minimum support price, and let us say this is the equilibrium price P star. If government says that the minimum support price is less than the, government would not say, if government fixes the minimum support price which is lower than the market equilibrium price, what would happen? Let us say that in the market on its own wheat can be bought or sold at 5 rupees per unit, 5 rupees per kg, or government says that the minimum support price for wheat is 4 rupees per kg.
Nothing will change.
Nothing will change. Nothing will change. This will only influence the market if it is above the market equilibrium price. So, what is happening in that case? Let us look at it. Okay. Minimum support price is above market equilibrium. This is demand, this is supply, and this is minimum support price. What will happen? What you can see immediately is
Excess supply.
excess supply. Okay, excess supply. It means there will be a downward pressure on the
price.
sellers to decrease their price of per unit of good. But if government wants to support them, then what does the government say? That
buy.
you bring the goods,
It will buy itself.
okay, we will buy it at this particular price. So, what government does, that it artificially jacks up the demand in a way, okay, that okay, we will buy. Okay. But you have seen, again I am moving out of economics, you have seen that every year government of India buys lot of grains, and what happens to that grain?
They get wasted.
It gets
Yes, so dumped.
wasted, because not only if you, let us say, when market can support 5 rupees per kg and you promise that you will pay 6 rupees per kg, you are producing more than what is required in the market. Okay. So, people would, even supplier, they could use their resources to produce something else, but just because there is a support price for wheat, they would devote their resources to produce wheat. So, supply of wheat would increase even further, it may increase even further, you understand. So, this may be a result of price price floor. Now, let us look at the price ceiling. Where do we get the price ceiling? Typically
Petroleum
In
market.
every
petrol
goods,
or even in the rents.
Maximum retail.
Maximum rent that you can charge is given by the government. You cannot increase the rent beyond a particular level. Okay? You cannot increase the rent beyond particular level. So, in that case what happens? Now, there are two possibilities. If that level is above the market equilibrium price, nothing will change.
changes.
If that level is above, so you can go up to that level, but market itself is operating at the lower level. So, there is no problem, it would not change the market, but we get into problem when the price ceiling is below the market equilibrium level, and this is the price ceiling. Now, in this case what has happened? What do we get?
Demand.
Excess
Demand.
supply, demand, price, quantity. We get excess demand, and when we have excess demand, what happens?
Upward pressure on the.
There is an upward pressure, but by law sellers cannot increase the rent or buyers cannot pay more. So, then what do we observe in the market?
Again, role of government.
Huh?
Black marketing.
Black market, you know, under the table payment. Okay. What else? So, let me write it, that first thing, it gives rise to shortage, that is the very basic thing to say. Fine. Now, second, what we observe is something I can call non-market
Transaction.
rationing mechanism. What is non-market rationing mechanism? For example, petrol, you were giving the example of petrol. The people would like to buy more, but very little amount of petrol is available, relatively less amount of petrol is available at that particular price. So, what happens typically? You see a long line, people waiting. This is in a way it is a non-market rationing mechanism, you have to wait little longer, waiting is costly for you. So, you are paying in a different way, not as the price of petrol, but in terms of the time that you could use to earn some wage. Okay. So, non-market mechanism it can give rise to. In room rent case, what can happen? The landlord can demand Puggery. In India we have Puggery system. Okay. There is, and it is more prevalent in Bombay, because in Bombay we have stringent rent control laws. So, this is non-market mechanism that you have to pay right in the beginning as Puggery to rent a room. We are talking about the effect of price ceiling on the market, and one thing that we saw clearly, that whenever we have price ceiling and the price determined by the government or by the law is lower than the what would have been the market equilibrium price, then what we get is shortage. It means we have excess demand and we have less supply, that results into shortage. It means that some of the people would like to buy the good at that particular price, but they are not able to buy because we do not have sufficient amount of goods available in the market at that particular price. Okay. So, we get shortage. Also, what we observe, again I am not saying all the time, but in some of the cases what we observe is non-market rationing mechanism, and that is like, for one example would be long wait. Okay. It is not illegal, it is not illegal, but just because there are so many people who would love to buy a good at that particular price, but there are not enough supply. So, they will have to wait longer, like lines that you have seen, long queues that you have seen outside petrol station, gas station, or even the long wait to get the gas cylinder. People would love to buy more of gas cylinder at that particular price, but there is not enough supply to fulfill their demand. So, we get this is something non-market rationing mechanism. Another example is that you have to pay Puggery. Right now, that Puggery is something, the security deposit that the house owner or the apartment owners they take from the person who would like to rent their house or the apartment in name of security. But you can think it is kind of a non-market rationing mechanism, that they cannot, the landowner or the house owner cannot charge the market equilibrium price that they would like to charge, they are forced to charge something less. So, to compensate they charge Puggery in name of security fee. Okay. And this is in a way, when they say that it is a security fee, it is not illegal. So, it is non-market rationing mechanism. Now, we can also think about the black market, the rise of black market, or in other word illegal trade at prohibited prices, or in other word this is one kind of black market. This is not the black market, but this is one kind of black market.
Actually, the Puggery system,
Huh.
we are taking some caution money,
Huh.
like you said, some security money.
Huh.
So, sir, is it taken thinking that we would earn interest on that caution money and the prices would be rising or on its own?
See,
We would compensate the
No, see.
drop in price.
like think from, let me tell you, this thing little in a different perspective. If market is operating at the equilibrium price, okay, and let us say the rent of the room, of course, here we are assuming that we have only one kind of apartment available, not very different kind of apartments available, and the rent of that apartment is 1000 rupees per month, and what happens, the quantity demanded matches the quantity supplied. So, when apartment owner demands a puggery, you would not go to him, go to that person for to renting his apartment, you will move to the another apartment owner, because that person would be willing to give you, so the puggery would vanish from the market. Okay. And even if it is present, if it is really security, the costal money or the security money, it is going to be very small security money. Just imagine in Bombay, you pay almost the price of apartment as security money, sometime more than that as a security money. Okay. So, although the name is security money, but that is not security money. Okay. Fine. So, okay. Okay. Now, let us move to the illegal trade at prohibited price. Now, you have here some sort of black market. People, the sellers are not allowed to sell at price higher than the price determined by the government through some law or some legislation, but it is very difficult for government to monitor it. So, you will automatically have a black market where you can buy gas cylinder at higher price. Okay. You can have black market where you can buy diesel at higher price, and these are quite common in our country.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We do have agents like who supply. Yes.
Okay. I am not trying to say that they do, they provide us, they of course provide a service. I am not saying that they are doing the right thing. The idea here is not to defend them, but to explain why it is happening. Okay. And then what we have is some kind of tie-in deals. Let me explain what is tie-in deals. Then tie-in deals is, many people would like to have gas connection. Let me explain this through an example, that many people in this country would like to have gas connection, okay, but the suppliers cannot afford to give those many gas connection at the government determined price. So, what they say, you go for gas connection, if it is your turn, if somehow you are getting gas connection, what the seller would say, that you want gas connection, you will also have to buy gas burner from me, then only you will get the gas connection.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that is also quite common. You are not interested in buying gas burner at the price which is much higher than the price that you have to pay in the market for a gas burner. So, this is the tie-in deals. It is not that you are buying the gas burner. Here what you have is shortage. There is not enough matches available in the market between buyers and sellers. So, sellers are getting compensated in that particular way. Again, I am not defending their position that they do a right or legal thing, I am just trying to explain why it happens. Similarly, when you go for apartments in Bombay, the apartment owner may say, okay, rent is this much, but also you have to take the furnitures that I have put in the house, you also have to rent the refrigerator that I have put in the house, and you will have to pay rent for these furnitures and refrigerators, which is much higher than the rent that you would have to pay if you rent these items from the market. Okay. So, these are tie-in deals, that is what you get. Fine. So, let me put a table for price ceiling and what you get. Although I explained these terms for price ceiling, let us look at what happens when we have price floor. Here you get excess supply, then you have non-market rationing mechanism again here also. And can you tell me what is one example of non-market rationing mechanism?
Like a buyer.
Let us take example of the minimum support price. for wheat. Okay. Of course, you will have excess supply and also you will have non-market rationing mechanism. Can you give me one example of non-market rationing mechanism in case of excess supply of wheat because of price floor?
So like the payment is not done at the time of buying, it is done after a year or after few months.
That can be one. Again, it is very difficult to discern it is because of some other reason, but that can be one reason.
And one more thing, we have to pay a minimum wage to the laborers. So to escape from that thing, we include child labor.
That is stretching too far. Again, it is difficult to figure out, but one thing that is very simple. To sell their product, they have to hear it is not the consumer who is waiting. Here producer, they wait they wait long period to sell their product, or when they go to the government unit to sell their product, there is a long queue. So, long waiting period is there for offloading their products. Okay. What you said is okay, but child labor, one has to think and really establish that connection, it is not that direct. Okay. What else? Illegal market. You will have to pay bribe. Illegal trade, instead of writing market, illegal trade. To offload your wheat at government units, you will have to pay bribe to the government officials. Okay. So, all these things happen in whenever we have price control. So, you may ask that whatever I have said talks about the problem associated with price control, then why do we have price control? Can you think of a reason that we have price control?
Yes sir, because the farmers, like people who are putting in more efforts but not getting the proper returns of their effort, that's why
It is to incentivize the production
Incentivize
for
them.
a few, like for wheat, or if there is a low production of potato and if we put a price floor on potato, so it will incentivize production and they can serve the market better.
But for this example, that at least every day in news we hear that so much of grain is rotting in government depots. Okay. So, do you think it is important enough to incentivize farmer to produce more wheat or more potato?
So that is also one more reason now that we don't have proper distribution system by which we can distribute. Like some people like below poverty line people, they are dying because of hunger, and we are throwing a lot of grains as surplus. So we don't have a proper distribution system.
So, let me just again for the argument's sake, I am not trying to demonize price control, I am just we are looking at the reason, and these negative reasons I gave you because we are talking about demand and supply, we are not talking about normative properties of imposing price control. Okay. But just for the argument's sake, from demand and supply perspective, you are talking about there are many poor people. If government wants to serve these poor people, why can't government buy the grains at the market price and give it to the poor? You understand my point, that if aim is to serve poor, why can't government buy these products at the market price and sell it? As you have already said that we do not have proper distribution system. Okay. So, what we are doing basically is that we are buying at the minimum support price and leaving grains to rot in open in absence of proper distribution system. But even when we have proper distribution system, why can't government buy the items that government needs to provide to poor at the market price and give it to poor? Just a point that you should ponder. Okay. But I am not saying that price control does not have advantage. Okay. That when we talk about the welfare economics towards the end, we will talk about it. Okay. But what I am saying definitely that there are definitely better ways to cater to the welfare of public.